One doctor. Mountain trails most wouldn't dare hike, and a mission everyone said was impossible. In the 1980s, Dr. Paul Farmer shocked the medical world by doing what no one else would, walking for hours through the Haitian mountains to treat patients everyone else had abandoned. But what drove him? The same force Jesus described when he said, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled." This wasn't just a nice quote, it was Farmer's blueprint for revolution. This hunger didn't just save individual lives, it transformed entire healthcare systems, built hospitals where experts said they couldn't exist, and treated diseases others called too expensive to cure. What if the success and comfort you're chasing isn't really what you're hungry for? What if you're meant for something bigger, a hunger so powerful it changes the world around you? When Jesus spoke about hunger and thirst, he wasn't describing a casual preference or mild interest. He was talking about an intense, driving need. In the original Greek, the words Jesus used convey a desperate, consuming hunger, the kind that takes over your thoughts and dictates your actions. This isn't about adding a spiritual practice to your weekend routine. It's about a deep longing that shapes your entire life. Think about genuine physical hunger. When you're truly starving, food isn't optional, it's essential. You don't just casually hope to eat someday. You actively search for nourishment. You'll rearrange plans, change priorities, and focus intently on satisfying that need. This is the kind of hunger Jesus was describing, an active, urgent seeking. In Psalm 42:1, David captures this desperate longing when he writes, "As the deer pants for streams of water, so my soul pants for you, my God." This isn't passive wishing, it's desperate yearning. Like a deer dying of thirst in the wilderness, searching frantically for water, this kind of spiritual hunger consumes your thoughts, shapes your choices, and drives you to action. What makes this beatitude so powerful is that it connects your deepest spiritual needs with real world action. Your hunger for righteousness isn't satisfied through mere knowledge or good intentions. It drives you to pursue what is right, just as physical hunger drives you to seek food. But what exactly are you meant to hunger for? What is this righteousness that Jesus promises will truly satisfy you? Righteousness. The word might sound old fashioned or legalistic to your ears. You might picture strict religious rules or someone claiming moral superiority over others. But that's not what Jesus meant at all. In its biblical sense, righteousness has two essential dimensions. First, it's about having a right relationship with God, being in proper alignment with your Creator. Second, it's about right relationships with other people, treating others with the love, dignity, and justice they deserve as fellow image bearers of God. This understanding of righteousness isn't about perfectionism or checking religious boxes. It's about wholeness in relationships. It's about things being as they should be, both between you and God and between you and others. Think of righteousness as restoration, bringing healing where there's brokenness, justice where there's oppression, and reconciliation where there's division. When Jesus describes hunger for righteousness, he's talking about a passionate desire to see things made right in every sphere of life. This beatitude doesn't stand alone. It builds on the previous teachings Jesus shared. When you're poor in spirit, recognizing your need for God, it leads to mourning over the brokenness in yourself and the world. This humility produces meekness, a gentle strength under God's control. All these qualities prepare your heart to truly hunger and thirst for righteousness. Righteousness isn't just about your personal morality, It extends to how you engage with systems and structures around you. It's about seeking justice for the oppressed, dignity for the marginalized, and flourishing for all of God's creation. When you hunger for righteousness, you're longing for God's intended order to be restored in your own life and in the world. And Jesus makes an extraordinary promise to those who experience this hunger: you will be filled. But what does that look like in a real person's life? Let me tell you about Dr. Paul Farmer. Dr. Farmer saw something that deeply troubled him: how the world's poorest communities were being denied basic health care simply because of where they were born. But instead of just feeling bad about it or sharing sad statistics online, he did something that would transform global healthcare forever. Picture Haiti in the 1980s, one of the poorest countries in the world. Most experts said providing advanced healthcare there was impossible. These people are too poor, they said. The infrastructure isn't there. It's not cost effective. But Dr. Farmer saw something different. He saw people, real people, dying from treatable diseases just because they were poor. This hunger for righteousness led him to do something remarkable. He hiked hours through mountains to reach patients others had written off. He built partners in health, starting with a small clinic in rural Haiti that grew into a revolutionary healthcare movement. When his patients couldn't afford medicine, he found a way to provide it. When they were too weak from tuberculosis to take their medicine, he hired community health workers to visit them daily. Here's what's amazing: when everyone said it was impossible to treat complex diseases in poor settings, Dr. Farmer proved them wrong. His patients in Haiti started having the same survival rates for tuberculosis and HIV as patients in the world's best hospitals. He showed that the real obstacle wasn't poverty or logistics, it was our willingness to do what's right. This is what hunger for righteousness looks like in action. It respects, upholds, and fights for human dignity. It doesn't accept injustice and human rights violations as inevitable. It's willing to go against expert opinion, conventional wisdom, and the path of least resistance to pursue what is right. Dr. Farmer's work wasn't driven by a desire for recognition or achievement. It was fueled by a deep conviction that every human life has equal value and deserves equal care. His hunger for righteousness, for right relationships between people, and just systems of healthcare drove him to create what many thought impossible. But what about Jesus' promise that those who hunger and thirst for righteousness will be filled? What kind of fulfillment awaits those who pursue righteousness with such passion? Notice the promise Jesus makes. He doesn't say, for they might be filled, or for they should try to fill themselves. He says, they will be filled. There's a certainty here that's worth paying attention to. The Greek word used for filled means to be fully satisfied or complete. It's the same word used to describe animals that have eaten until they want no more. This isn't a partial or temporary satisfaction, it's complete fulfillment. But notice something else important: the passive voice. They will be filled, not they will fill themselves. This suggests that the fulfillment comes from outside of you. Your part is to hunger and thirst, to deeply desire righteousness. God's part is to provide the fulfillment. This is what sets Jesus' teaching apart from so much of our self help culture. He's not giving you another self improvement project. He's inviting you into a relationship where your deepest hunger meets God's provision. Look at Dr. Farmer's life. His work wasn't just about alleviating suffering, it became a source of profound meaning, purpose, and joy for him. While working tirelessly for others, he himself was being filled. The more he poured himself out in pursuit of what was right, the more he experienced a deep satisfaction that no amount of personal comfort or achievement could provide. This is the paradox at the heart of Jesus' teaching. When you hunger for righteousness, for the good of others and the glory of God, you find yourself filled in ways you never expected. Your pursuit of justice for others becomes the very path to your own deepest fulfillment. As St. Augustine wrote, our hearts are restless until they rest in God. So, how do you cultivate this hunger for righteousness in your own life? How do you develop an appetite for what truly satisfies? It begins with honest recognition. Take a moment to consider what isn't satisfying you. Our culture promises that success, comfort, entertainment, and status will fulfill us. But how often do those things leave you feeling hollow? That emptiness isn't something to ignore. It's actually the beginning of genuine hunger. What you consume matters too. Just as your physical diet shapes your body's cravings, what you take in mentally and spiritually shapes what your soul craves. The media you absorb, the conversations you engage in, the voices you listen to. All of these either awaken your hunger for righteousness or slowly dull it. There's wisdom in ancient practices. Prayer, scripture reading, worship, and service aren't just religious boxes to check. They're more like training for your spiritual appetite. When you spend time in God's presence, you naturally begin to hunger more for the things God cares about: justice, mercy, and love. This isn't a journey you're meant to take alone. Find people who share your passion for making things right. Connect with those already doing justice work in your community. Their hunger will fuel yours, and together you'll discover possibilities you might never have imagined on your own. Through it all, remember Jesus' promise. If you truly desire right relationship with God, that's exactly what you'll find. Your hunger itself is a gift, and Jesus, who gave it to you, is faithful to satisfy it, often in surprising ways. Dr. Farmer's journey from a single clinic in Haiti grew into a movement transforming global healthcare. When we refuse to accept injustice, both we and our world are changed. What makes your heart ache for justice today? Your hunger isn't random, it's pointing directly to your purpose and a satisfaction that only Jesus can provide. If these Beatitudes spoke to you, what injustice breaks your heart most? Share in the comments. Like and subscribe for more ancient wisdom that transforms modern life. Remember, your hunger for righteousness is your call to action.